Alright guys, so today I'm going to show you how to make a character from a simple shape, and we're going to add different values to that character to make it look really three-dimensional, okay? So first we're going to start with a simple shape. You can pick any shape you want. You could do like a triangle, you could do a square, you could do a circle, rectangle, you could do more than one shape, depending on how you want your character to look, okay? Alright, we're going to start our character kind of off to the side a little bit. We want to leave some room to explain some different details about our character, okay? So, I'm going to draw a circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Sometimes, if our circle isn't perfect, it gives our character a little bit more character. Okay, so I've got a circle here, and now I'm going to start adding some details on here to kind of make this into a character. And for my character, I think I'm going to do a penguin. So I'm going to draw a little flappy arm on this side, and another little flappy arm on this side, and then I'm going to do a little penguin beak right there with a line through it. Give him a little smile. Okay, so we have a little penguin beak, some little arms on the side, and let's do our legs. For his feet, I'm just going to draw 3 little lines. 3 little lines like that. Alright, it's already looking pretty good. So I'm going to do his little white patch on his belly, kind of make him look more like a penguin. Now I get to decide how I want the eyes to look. Let's see. I'm going to do a circle over here and a circle over here. And those are his eyes. Okay, now I've got the basic parts of my penguin done. I'm going to add a little bit more detail because I want him to stand out a little bit more than just the circle shape here. So to do that, I'm going to add some little penguin hair on there. Okay. And I'm going to go back over my lines, kind of darken them up a little bit. That way I can see where I'm going. Just going all around the outside. I'm going to go in and erase all of the lines that I don't need anymore. Okay, so now I'm up to this. Maybe I want to make him, give him some expression, so maybe I'll do some eyebrows here. So I'm going to do an eyebrow like this, another eyebrow, maybe like way over here. It's got a little bit of a raised eyebrow. Okay? And then you could also do stuff like, maybe my penguin has a couple of teeth. Add some penguin teeth there. Right, and now I'm going to go in and I'm just going to lightly fill in my whole penguin. Since my penguin is black, I'm going to want to fill in my penguin black. Except for this little white patch on his belly there, I'll leave that white. Okay. after I have him kind of lightly filled in, this is where I'm going to start adding different values to him to make him look really three-dimensional. So in order to do that, we have to decide where our light source is coming from. So I'm going to say my light source is coming from this top right corner over here. And so if the light is shining down this way, that means this is going to be his lightest side, and his darkest side is going to be over here. So I'm going to start filling in some of these darker values. And even some of that will probably go on that white spot. It'll just probably show up a little bit lighter on there. And then you gotta remember things like, if this beak is popping out, there's going to be a shadow underneath his beak. So a little bit of a shadow underneath his beak. Maybe his hair is casting a little bit of shadow. Different spots on here. We want some really dark areas to create some contrast on there. So I'm going to make that side pretty dark. You can already see he's starting to round out a little bit over here. And so he's going to have some kind of heavier lines underneath, because that's kind of where that dark shadow is going underneath too. And I'm going to want to add just a little bit shadow on that beak. Maybe he's got a little bit shadow underneath his teeth there. I'm going to make these eyes stand out just a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to do his feet. Some shadows where his feet are. Underneath his feet. A little bit more over here. He's going to have a little bit of shadow underneath his arm, right here, where he's got the crease of his arm, okay? So a little bit of shadow under there. So we're just trying to figure out, if that light was coming from over here, where would all those shadows be, okay? All right, he's looking more and more round. So we're just adding shadows over and over in places that we think needs them, okay? Now if you want to darken up the outline around your character, feel free to do that. That might help him pop a little bit more. And finally, after we get some of those shadows to round out his body, another way to make him look a little bit more three-dimensional would be to add a cast shadow. So cast shadow would be something like this. Okay, so since he's kind of round, his shadow is going to look kind of round. So the darkest part of the cast shadow is going to be what's closest to him. And then it's going to kind of fade out a little bit. As it goes, okay? So just get those shadows in there. And he's going to start to really look three-dimensional. And you want to make sure it's pretty dark up against him, okay? All right. So now we have what looks like a pretty good simple shape character. And that's just shaded with pencil. Next, if you want to, you can get out some colored pencils and you can add some color to your character. So I'm just going to take, and since he's a penguin, it's mostly black and white, but I'm going to take some colors. Maybe like his feet, a little yellow, and his beak. Yellow. Okay. And then I can even take my black and make my penguin a little bit darker. That black. Really push him to where he looks black like a penguin. Now that our penguin's gotten a little bit darker, we may end up needing to push this shadow just a little bit darker too with our colored pencil. You'll notice I'm being very light with the pencil, making sure that I'm not pushing too hard and getting anything too dark where I don't want it. I'm just building up these layers over and over. Okay, so I'm going to go over his eyes. I'm going to go ahead and fill in his eyes, but I'm going to leave a little bit of white in there. So he's got these little cartoony highlights in there in his eyes. I'm going to go over his eyebrows. And the crease of his mouth, that tends to be a pretty dark area. And then his teeth. And I'm going to make a little bit of a darker line underneath his beak and some of these areas underneath where his hair is. And then in the crease of his arm, crease of the other arm, underneath where his belly would be, casting the darker shadow. And then I'm just going to darken this up just a little bit more over here so it looks a little more round. And again, underneath that arm where that shadow would cast down, making him a little bit darker and darker as I go. Okay. You can also, if you remember, colors have different values, so you can take a darker yellow, more of an orangey, and kind of add some value underneath that foot so it looks a little darker, underneath this foot, and on the bottom side of this beak here. That's what I would do. Anywhere you think that darker area is, you might need to add that other color in there, okay? I'm going to bump this cast shadow up a little bit more because I think it's not quite dark enough yet. Okay. And then finally, you can either take, and this is optional, you don't have to do the outline on it, but I think it's going to help this character look a little bit better if I give him an outline. And so there's a few things you can do to do that. You could use a Sharpie. I'm just going to go ahead and use my black colored pencil, and I'm just going to put kind of a bolder outline around my character, which will flatten him out a little bit, but since these are kind of fun character shapes like this, it's okay for him to flatten out a little bit. I think it adds to like kind of the cartoony element of him if I give him an outline. Okay. And that is the completed drawing for my simple shape character. Okay. So after you have your simple shape character drawn, we're going to write a little bit about him. Okay. So you'll have to make up a name for your character. Maybe some things like his height, his weight, a little bit of a background story. Maybe your character has a really unique personality or superpowers, a really creative backstory, things that you would want to write about your character, okay? So I'm going to name my character. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put name. Let's call him Billy Bob. So this is Billy Bob the Penguin. All right. Let's say how tall he is. His height, let's go with 3 foot. So he is 3 foot tall. All right, so we're gonna say that Mr. Billy Bob, we're gonna do, he's 3 foot tall. Let's see how much he weighs. I'm gonna put this little guy at about 10 pounds. So he's 3 foot tall, weighs about 10 pounds. Cute little round penguin guy over here, okay? We can also come up with some other cool things about him. Maybe he has the power. I don't know that a little penguin needs a power, but maybe he does. Maybe he has super strength. Okay. And then I think after you get a few just simple little easy details about him or about your character, you could go into a little bit about their backstory. So maybe write something like Billy Bob is a normal penguin until he swallowed a radioactive beach ball. Then he got super bouncy strength, I don't know. So, just something pretty simple, you know. Billy Bob, a normal penguin, swallowed a radioactive beach ball, and it gave him super bouncy strength. So you could continue on with that and say things like, he now protects his penguin village from all manner of walruses and seals who try to attack the village. He bounces them and destroys them, all kinds of cool stuff on there, okay? Just some details about who your character is, what he does, what his name is. I just think it's fun to kind of include those little details and be a little bit more creative than just creating our character, taking that a step beyond and thinking about who that character could be. Okay, once you have that, that is the end of this assignment, and we'll talk about your cool characters that you came up with, see if we need to make any tweaks, changes, or adjustments, and that's it.